Welcome to this training video, which will demonstrate the assembly of the AT-400 12-inch extension gun. Let's begin with the bottom housing. We can tell the bottom from the top because the bottom does not have a lengthwise groove on the outside. The top does. In addition, there are 6 threaded inserts in the bottom housing to be used when securing the top and bottom halves together. Select the 2 internal wire guide tubes, the alignment tool, and the 5/16 24 by 1 inch socket head cap screws. Insert the internally threaded front ends of the wire guides into the alignment tool. Then, using your hands, insert the screws through the alignment tool and into the guide tubes. When they are finger tight, back them out slightly so that the tubes can rotate easily. We will see why in a moment. Place this assembly into the grooves in the bottom housing. In the previous step, we loosened the screws in the alignment tool so that here the tubes could fall naturally into place in the grooves. Once they are in place, hold the alignment tool and tap the bottom housing toward the alignment tool. Next, place the top housing over the assembly. Place the front of the housing up against the alignment tool, then slowly lower the back down into place. Locate the 6 1/4-20 by 7/8 inch screws. Note that there are more holes in the housing than there are screws. We mentioned that 6 of the holes in the bottom housing have threaded inserts. You can see them even with the 2 housings together. These are the ones to use. Give the top and bottom housing halves a final tap to be sure they're tight against the alignment tool before tightening them with a 3/16 inch Allen wrench. We suggest tightening each one only until it's seated, then go alternately among the screws to fully tighten them all. The alignment tool can now be removed. These screws will most likely have tightened up a bit in the process. A 1/4 inch Allen wrench may be needed to remove them. Here we are doing a final check to be sure all screws are tight. The next step is to install the wire guides. Screw these into the internal wire guide tubes by hand as far as they will go. Then use a pliers to fully tighten. Now attach the air tip to the axial air tube. Again, screw it in by hand until it stops and use a pliers to make it fit snugly. Note that there is no need to tighten this excessively. Near the end of the axial air tube there is a line. Once inserted, this line indicates the limit of how far the tube should extend out of the front of the housing. Insert the axial air tube until this line is just visible at the front of the housing. When properly seated, the tip of the air tube should be exactly 1.5 inches from the front edge of the housing. In addition, it may be necessary to rotate the tube. Because it may not be perfectly straight, rotating it will line up the tip equally between the 2 wire guides. To lock the axial air tube in position, use the 832 by 3/8 inch set screw using the 5/64 inch Allen wrench. Take note that tightening this screw might rotate the tube slightly, so keep an eye on this as you're tightening it. Here we can see that the air tip is exactly 1.5 inches out from the housing. The final step is to install the optional radial air tube. Lay the tube in the groove on the top of the housing so that the front of this tube extends 2.5 inches from the front of the housing. The bottom edge on the front section must be perfectly level or parallel to the work surface or top of the housing. Once it is level and the distance from the housing is correct, install the front tube clamp. Do not fully tighten it at this point because some movement of the tube may still be required. Now install the rear tube clamp. Note that if you are building a longer gun, there will be a 3rd center clamp. Once we have verified the position of the tube, you can fully tighten the clamps. The extension gun is complete.